everyone, and welcome to this bonus episode of So Now You're a Teacher. As you can see, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode, and I'm so excited. I'm here with one of my best friends and mentors, Cami Eiskamp. Now, Cami currently is a parenting coach. Would that be the right term to use, Cami?
Definitely.
Okay, great. So Cami, at least that's what she is for me. She's a parenting coach. She also happens to be my best friend, so I'm really, really lucky. So Cami and I, we worked together for 20 years?
20 years.
Oh my gosh. Cami and I have worked together for 20 years. We met together. We met when we were working at an educational company, training teachers around the world, even when I lived in Denmark for a few years. When I needed an extra trainer to work with teachers there, I would bring Cami over because she is amazing. And now she is my first phone call whenever I'm having challenges with my kids and I'm trying to realign myself as a parent. So I'm so excited for Cami to be here with us today. We also happen to be old school friends. Cami and I grew up together. We're talking we ran the fun run together in elementary school next to each other. Cami happens to be a few years older than me and about a few hundred years wiser. So get ready to be blown away with some great parenting insights today. So the question we're going to answer today is it okay for my child to be bored? Now, spoiler alert, Cami and I are going to take different perspectives on this question. We're going to answer it differently. We're going to disagree, and we're both going to be right. So it's important to get both sides of this story here and get some clarification on when it's okay for our kids to be bored and when we might want to try to avoid it. So I'll jump in from the neuroscience perspective on boredom, and I'm going to come in and answer the question with a big no. It is not okay for our kids to be bored. I see people
The reason that this is such a great question for us is because we had a phone call where we were arguing about boredom. Right. Lisa was saying emphatically no, and I was saying emphatically yes. And then we had to pull apart the context. And Lisa and I said, we should share this with our networks. Yeah. All parents need this info.
Exactly, because it's so important because there's so much out there right now with kids being home because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19. And people are like, it's okay for your kids to be bored. And I'm like, no, it's not. And Cami, you're like, exactly. And so we're both right because we both like to be right, but we actually do happen to both be right. And we just want to clarify the when and the hows of all of that. So let's just jump right in. You ready, Cami?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Why can't my child be bored?
Why can't your child be bored? Okay.
When, why, and what do I do about it?
Okay. So can I use your child's name?
Yes.
Okay. So Cami's daughter, Sydney, is in 4th grade. Thank you. She's in 4th grade. Here's when Sydney cannot be bored. Okay. When it's not good for Sydney to be bored. We'll say it that way. It's not good for Sydney to be bored or any of your kids to be bored when they're doing their academic learning. Here's why. All learning is state dependent. What that means is whatever state of being that we're in right now at a certain moment will impact our ability to learn. So as you know, whenever we're tired, whenever we're cranky, whenever we're worried, it's really hard to learn. Boredom falls in the category of negative states for learning. It's not good for learning.
So when Sydney is tired, cranky, bored, unengaged, then do I just say, well, seeing that you're sad today, there will be no academics. So instead, let's eat Twizzlers and watch Star Wars.
Oh gosh, no. Oh gosh, no. Stay away from the Twizzlers. No, not ideally. But it's important for us to recognize that as we've been talking about here on this series, some of our children are experiencing really, really high levels of stress. Yeah. So first and foremost, we've got to handle the stress levels. If your child is in a place where their stress is managed pretty well and they're jumping into their home-based learning, then boredom is something we want to avoid. Now, those of you who are working, if your kids are coming from high school, middle school, I'm hearing a lot from parents whose kid is literally sitting in front of the Zoom meetings, one class period after another, just following a traditional schedule with a passing period in between. There's less autonomy we have as parents.
Yeah.
to like jump in and intervene and co-teach in those circumstances.
Right.
So depending on what's happening with your child and their home-based learning, find ways to adapt this information for you. But let me keep it really brief. Boredom is really bad for learning because boredom, a state of boredom, doesn't give the brain the right chemicals it needs to be excited, pay attention, find the information relevant. We've talked about relevance. The brain thrives on relevance. If the brain doesn't think it's relevant, then it's boring information and they don't pay attention. And so it's harder for memories to form. It's harder for information to be transferred to long-term memory, to be remembered when we actually get back to school, whenever the heck that's going to be.
Okay, so this is really important. And when you and I started talking about this the other day, some things really shifted for us in our household. So one of the adjustments that we made is because, you know, our fourth grader is going through a lot of online work, and some of it is very unengaging for her. Yeah. Right. And so she's using a lot of self-discipline to kind of wade through the work. So here's some of the adjustments we made based on your important information that you gave me. All right, One thing we did is we gave her different resources for different subjects. So that means that instead of always asking us, we said, can you please call my father, who's just enjoys math? Can you please phone him for math support and do a FaceTime call with him? Do it all on your own. Earthquake. Do it all on your own and then call him. You know, and then we said, you're going to be a lot happier if you figure out what you want to learn, who you want to be, what you want to build, what you want to create. And we said, you know, you can keep making your way through this kind of just humdrum online work that you don't like, or you can try to figure out some other things to at least do in between.
Yeah. And I think it's important through this process that we continue to give teachers a whole lot of grace, because they've been
totally
thrown into this.
Yeah. And it's not the teachers, it's just the online resources. It's just like an online math program, an online whatever, which truthfully, as a parent, I'm thrilled to have. At least I'm like 30 minutes of that. I'm thrilled for it. So
yes, exactly. So from the brain perspective, boredom is bad. If you're looking for specific research to support this, why it's not okay for your child to be bored during academic learning, here's one resource you might find interesting. So we live in a day and age where you can actually quantify and compare the impact of certain things in learning. And it's very technical. We're not going to get into it right now. But here is one chart that I sometimes refer to when I'm working with teachers in schools. So as you can see over here, this lists all the different factors that impact learning. And this blue bar, the bigger the blue bar, the better it is for student learning, scientifically, academically, with these really crazy statistical mathematical computations that I think are really fun. Most of you probably won't. So you'll see things like really high up here, things like that you would expect, the relationship between the teacher and the student. And then you'll get down to things that have like a smaller impact on student learning, things like homework at the elementary level, things like class size that actually, unfortunately, doesn't matter as much as we'd like it to. But as you'll see, as we keep going all the way down, look to the third from the bottom.
I see it. I see it.
In negative in red. There is profound statistical evidence to demonstrate that boredom has a negative impact on student learning. It's missing all the right chemicals, the neurotransmitters that we want our kids to be experiencing so that learning will actually happen and the memories will continue to stick around. So that's my point.
I'm with you 100%. And then if anyone wants this information, this is John Hattie's list. And can you tell us a little bit more about that, Lisa, about what we could Google if we wanted to look it up ourselves because we were interested? Because this is the largest depth, breadth, most comprehensive gold standard study by which all education is being measured at this point.
Yes. So John Hattie is one of many, let me grab my list again. He's one of many educational researchers who works in the realm of what's called an effect size. An effect size is just a number that comes with a complicated calculation, and the number tells you the impact a certain intervention has on student learning. So everything from everything from like the lighting in a classroom to things like if the learner was exposed to alcohol in utero. Like
Right.
you can study.
So what could I Google? If I was a parent, what could I Google to look this up?
So Google Hattie effect sizes, and you will find Hattie's list. He's one of the biggest names in this world. You can also just like Google effect size and then whatever you want to know about. So if you are like physical activity, or if you're like homework, like what's like
children playing frisbee in the background while another child is doing mathematical algorithms.
Sure, like there's research on so many things. This list right here has 252, so it's a pretty comprehensive list. But in the work that I do and in the book that I've written and the articles I publish every month, I'm referencing many other people who calculate these as well. It's just really common in the academic world to calculate this as a way to validate whatever it is that they're researching or studying. So,
okay. So no boredom during academics. And then let's get to the meat of this. So as a parent, I'm like, okay, great. They shouldn't be bored, but they are. Right. So now what?
Well, so my next series of videos is going to be all about motivation. How do we motivate our child to be more engaged in their learning? And it's all going to depend on what kind of home-based learning is happening right now. Right. If your kid is getting all of their instruction through Google Classroom, through Zoom, with their teacher directly, then there's going to have to be some like creativity of how we co-teach and how we work with our teacher to make that happen.
So here's some other adjustments we've made. Instead of having us as the parent decide, first you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then you're going to do this. Instead, we've allowed for a lot of flexibility so that the child can say, right now, I feel most interested in tackling this topic, and here are 3 to 5 choices under that topic that will count.
Exactly. So
that's a lot of time on our hands. So we got time to cover it all.
That's right. That's right. So when you look at motivation theories from an academic perspective, what you're talking about is autonomy, which is just the student being able to choose what they do. And that's a highly motivating factor for students with learning. So that is great if that's an option given your circumstance with home-based learning. So things like autonomy are really helpful, giving students like power and choice. Mm-hmm. There are three what I call hardwired motivators, meaning they work for every child, every adult, across every gender, ethnicity, background, like everything. So I'm going to go into those in my next episodes, and we're going to break down what those 3 are, how we can do them in our home-based learning. And then after that, we'll jump into how do you motivate specific age groups, because there's 3 that work for everybody. And then there's certain groupings that work for like younger children that don't work for teenagers. And there's ones that work for teenagers that don't work for younger ones. So I'm going to break it all down. It's going to take a while. So I'm just going to say, stay tuned on those, but there are solutions coming.
Okay.
For now, just try not to be okay with your children being.
The point is notice boredom.
Yeah.
And then try some different strategies, whether that's autonomy or taking a break or taking a walk or getting involved or getting engaged or asking questions or try something
new, like something new, like one new thing every day, something that's like some novelty really helps battle boredom.
Okay, I love that. And I can really relate to that because in our household, our 4th grader makes lunch for the whole family every day. And for the past week, a salad has accompanied whatever main course we're having. Okay. And there are the same ingredients in the salad every time. And I don't complain about someone putting a meal in front of me that I didn't make. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, cashews, raisins, cheese, tomatoes, bell pepper. I'm like, let's do something different. Like,
yeah, maybe a little something new. One new ingredient.
Right. Okay.
And that's a great analogy. It's like, it's not that every day needs to be Disneyland for learning. There just needs to be enough novelty, enough choice. It's not like, hey, here's 87 things that you can choose from. That's actually overwhelming to the brain. I've spoken directly to the leading researcher on motivation theory, and I asked him personally, how many choices should we be giving children?
Well, that's a
good question. He said, 2 to 3 is
Right.
sufficient to give that sense of like power and choice.
Mm-hmm.
When you get more than that, then they start feeling overwhelmed, and it causes what's called cognitive load, which shuts down learning, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so this is related to a lot of the work that I do, because sometimes parents put children in the driver's seat almost too much.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to give developmentally appropriate choices, right? So the choice isn't, do you feel like doing this or not? The choice is when, which one, how do we accomplish these goals? It's like choices with parameters that are developmentally appropriate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. And so I said, boredom is the gift of the world. Boredom is one of the most wonderful things that could happen in a family to a child. Boredom is holy. Boredom should be celebrated. And Liesl said, that is not true. And I said, yes, it is. And then we went at it. And so here we are today.
Yeah. Okay, break it down, Cami. Like, why is boredom great? Why is it the holiest of gifts we can give to our children?
Okay, so I agree with you, Liesl, that in learning, boredom is really detrimental.
Thank you.
So we're totally aligned. I'm with you, and thank you so much. And thank you for always being my first call when I need a really credible research source. If there's someone who knows what the research says, it's you. So when our children are bored in the home, and when they come to us and they say, I'm bored, what the research around family dynamics and child development says is that as parents, usually we start offering choices. We start saying, how about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? So then the entertaining parents that we are, we start trying to get them to pick something. And usually we do this understandably because they're bugging us, or they're complaining, or they're whining. We're just like, go handle it. Like, go play, pick something. But boredom is actually when the parent isn't saying, do you want to try one of these 5 things? When the parent instead, depending on the child, says, think about what you want to do and go figure it out. When kids have a moment to think for themselves instead of the adult doing the thinking and deciding for them, boredom is where self-discovery happens. It's where we decide, I want to pick up a guitar and learn how to play this. It's where we say, you know what, I just want to get this puzzle handled. I want to build something with Legos. I feel like coloring. I feel like making something in the kitchen. I feel like going outside and being with animals. I feel like writing. I feel like reading and getting lost in a book. We discover what we love when we are bored and we have the space to do so.
So true. And I want to get there so badly with my kids. So like, help me through this process of when my kids come to me and they say, Mom, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. Like, what do I say? And then when they come back to me and say, but I don't want to do that. Or that sounds boring to me too. Like, how do I stay firm?
So there's some different contexts. So Liesl, because your kids are 5 and under, 5 and toddlers, right? Then some, and just knowing your children specifically who have a lot of structure and consistency, then it would be wonderful to start with a timer and say, I'm going to set this kitchen timer so you can see it and watch it. I'm going to set it for first 5 minutes. And if after 5 minutes you haven't chosen something, then I'll come and help you. And the more our children get used to being told, you get to pick. Yeah. And then you can give them some more parameters. Pick something in the family room. Pick something outside. Pick something on this table, right? Because kids need practice picking.
Right. But I think that timing thing, that would really, really work for my kids, especially for Dane.
Especially for Dane. Dane's like, all right, I know how to be successful here.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Right. And then the goal is to keep increasing the time.
Okay.
Then we move to 7 minutes. Then we move to 10. Then we move to 15. And often kids get impatient and they will pick something.
Yeah.
They will
They're
pick something.
capable.
Right, they're capable. And then once they pick something, it doesn't mean that you just tell them to pick something and you roll out and you go take a 45-minute shower and drink a root beer on the back patio.
What?
It means that you make yourself busy by reading a book in the corner and saying, take 5 minutes and pick something. If you haven't picked, I'll help you. And then once they pick something, walk over to the timer and say, I'm so glad you chose something. Stick with that for a little while and then set it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Okay.
Right. And then for older kids,
Right.
if
Okay.
older kids are, like, let's really take a big jump up to maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
The less used to thinking for themselves they are, the more difficult this will be. And there will be, we should expect, whining, complaining, growing pains, arguing, maybe tantrums.
I can see that happening for sure.
Right?
Okay.
The thing is, though, is that if we keep saying, this is your time to pick, I'm not deserting you. Let's explain to them, 2nd, 3rd, these middle elementary grades, they can understand this is your time. I want you to have this time to think, to choose, to pick, to figure out what you want to do, to listen to your inner voice.
Right. Like, this is the gift of the home-based learning that we have. Like, we have this time, let's really take advantage of it so that we're at the end of it, we look back and realize, like, wow, as parents, we really did some good work here. And
Yeah,
really
it was hard, but there were some really great things that came out of it.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is that I recommend choosing this, I'm bored, go figure it out yourself, when we as parents actually have time for a meltdown, a drama, an argument, complaining, until the kids are more well-versed and practiced at thinking.
It's a skill, right? That has to be practiced.
It's definitely a skill. And Lisa and I have spent years going into classrooms and watching America's teachers, and really the world's teachers, truthfully. Yeah. We've been to almost every state in the US and more than 20 different countries, training educators, parents, and school leaders. And sometimes when I notice something in a child, I ask the teacher to call the child over and to say, we're going to go through your writing together. Would you like me to go through it with a blue pen or a green pen? And sometimes children have a hard time deciding even which color they just like better.
Wow.
Because they look outside of themselves for answers.
Yeah, like, well, which one should I choose?
Right. What are the reasons? What are the parameters? And if the teacher just says, they're both right answers, it's just the one that you like. And if kids struggle with just something as simple as picking a color, it's a really good indicator that adults have been thinking for them. And they have been doing something called putting on the veil of compliance. The veil of compliance is when kids just do what we ask them to do and comply. And they get in a habit of compliance rather than thinking, understanding, questioning, communicating, and listening to themselves. So this is, go.
Yeah, I think this is really common because as the adult generation, I think a lot of us grew up in a culture where that was the norm. Like, we just complied to the adult figures in our lives, our parents, our teachers, our, whomever it was. And so,
because we got rewards for it.
Yes.
We got rewards for it. And so
it's normal for us to parent this way, I think is what I'm trying to say. And it's going to be a real pattern shift to change this in our own behaviors as parents.
Right. So that is the question. The question is that as you go through the rest of your day, and when your kids say, I'm bored, what is your habit and mindset around boredom? Right? Do you believe that boredom can be a place where kids discover themselves, where creativity and imagination is engaged? Can boredom be something that builds resilience and tolerance and patience? Is boredom something where we learn to actually notice what we want? What does my mind crave? What does my body want? What am I interested in? What do I care about? Right? We say we want kids to think and come alive. And so we have to give them the chance to do that and to know who they are, not who we decide they are.
For sure. And then when you future pace that, when they get into college and they're like, I don't know, what am I supposed to major in? What do I want to do with my life? What kind of career do I want? That, you know, if I stay in these habits of just like controlling and making choices for my kids, then they're not going to be able to make some really big life decisions for themselves, because they have no practice in smaller settings of, do I want to play Legos right now, or do I want to read a book?
Thinking, in self-assessment, it's actually first self-reflection. Like, where am I? What do I think? What do I feel? What do I care about? And then self-assessment of, okay, so then what's next for me? And that leads to self-management. And then with this same set of tools is how our children choose friends. It's how they choose activities. It's how they choose everything. And it starts with us, because it all starts in the home, especially now.
Right? Everything is in the home. It starts in the middle. Everything's happening here.
Teachers have never been so valuable.
Oh my goodness. Do you guys see why I call Cami with every parenting question I possibly have? Cami, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Cami, where can we go and get more of this gold from you?
Thanks.
Where do we find you?
You can find me on parentroundtables.com. And we are a community that supports parents in this heartwarming, heart-wrenching, exhausting, inspiring work of creating a great family. And the soul of the work that we do is in our parent mastermind groups, which are education groups that also have a community aspect with a lot of group troubleshooting. And for me, it is the most, it's the most wonderful work that I've ever had a chance to do. So you can find me at parentroundtables.com. And Lisa, I'll send you a link that you can share with your people if they want to find me.
Awesome. That'd be great.
And I can send book lists and other short videos. And then Lisa, where can my people find you?
You can find me at lieselmcconchie.com. And
I'll include the link.
Yeah. And then just all over all your social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of that. And then my book is just on Amazon. You just Google my name and there it is.
So Lisa just co-authored a book with brain guru of the entire world, Eric Jensen, and we're extremely proud of her work. I'm extremely proud of Lisa's work in particular.
Thanks.
It's incredible.
Thanks. It's coming out any day now. So grab the discount before it's there.
That's right. Well, I love that we took the art and science of parenting and the art and science of everything that happens in the brain to tackle this topic of boredom.
Yes. So it's okay that your kids are bored, given the context of at home with play in free time. If it's during academic time, stay tuned. Not great, not good for learning. And how do we actually motivate the brain? That's what's coming up next. So until next time, guys, we'll see you later.
Thanks for the conversation, Lisa.